Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Buckeye Weekly Podcast. I am Tony Gerdeman, here as always with Tom Orr. Tom, how's it going?
Tony, it is not a breaking news edition, so therefore you can string out that power pause a little longer. So yes, it is. It's going great, Tony. It is my very favorite kind of show, the one where the listeners do our show prep for us. It is a listener question show, and as always, our listeners have come through in a very big way, and you probably get more than one of these. So hope you like this kind of show.
I hope you like it. Yeah, that's why I also didn't do a power pause, because there's not much of one, or too much of one, I should say, because we want to get to the show. We want to get to these listener questions, especially with the first listener question right now.
Yes, and the first listener question is from our old buddy Langdon Alger. What are your thoughts on what's going on at Colorado right now? And so the question is almost where to begin with what's going on at Colorado right now, because Colorado, if you saw, there was a video going on of like, here was the crowd at the 2022 spring game, and here was the crowd at the 2023 spring game, and it basically looked like the difference between an Ohio State football crowd during the COVID year and the year after the COVID year. That was basically the jump in terms of interest there. Now, what else is going on at Colorado? Well, Deion Sanders has made it pretty clear, like when he first got there, essentially, said like, hey, a bunch of you are terrible at football and aren't going to be playing here this fall. And then took the numbers off of everyone and only gave, I think, 13 players had earned their numbers after spring, which is essentially like having your black stripe removed, more or less. And at least one or two of those guys have transferred. Something like, what's the transfer number up to right now? It was in the high teens after spring ball last I saw, but it might be higher than that. I mean, yeah,
I think 18 or 19 maybe since the spring game, but like 29 since spring even started or something like that.
Yeah, it's a lot. And so this is kind of what Deion Sanders did when he got to Jackson State. They, kind of tore the whole thing down to the studs, and you bring in people through the transfer portal, and this is a method of rebuilding a program that was not available to you 5-6 years ago that you can do now. It just, to me, there's a whole conversation about the fairness to the student athlete who signed up to go play for Carl Durrell, and then, now the new coach has shown up and it's basically said, hit the bricks. There's a whole conversation around that, and then there's a whole conversation around, the effectiveness of this strategy. And I think, to me, Tony, short term, like this may work out long term. We'll see. But, having your own kid, Shedeur Sanders, Deion's son, has come in and has essentially been awarded the starting quarterback job, more or less. Virtually every other quarterback on the roster has transferred out already. And so, this feels like it's going to go one of two ways. It's either going to go real, real well or not well at all. It reminds me a little bit of Urban Meyer going to the pros, where it's like, well, if he can pull this off, he might be great, but man, this might not go great. And, in Urban Meyer's case, it very much did not go great with the Jacksonville Jaguars. With Deion Sanders, it's kind of a matter of, okay, can you bring in enough high-level talent to replace those guys? Because there are just not that many high-level players in the portal right now, and of them, they're not all going to go to Colorado. So this feels like you might have a year where you're playing with like 70 scholarship players or something like that. And that, if you look at the post-Charlie Weiss wasteland at the University of Kansas, where they had 40 scholarship players one spring or whatever it was, that does not go great. And that takes a little while to dig out of. So I'm not, selling my Deion Sanders stock just yet. But boy, I don't remember what the over-under is on Colorado this year. I think it was like 5.5 at one point. I'm kind of leaning towards the under, because it feels like you might have a little bit of a build to, okay, you've stripped it down to the studs. Now what?
Was that win total or scholarship total?
A little from column A, a little from column B.
I heard, I think 63 of the 83 players that were on the team last year are no longer there. And Bill Connolly tweeted out yesterday, on Monday, that by my count, Colorado's now lost all 4 quarterbacks who threw at least 20 passes last year, 3 of their 5 running backs, all 9 players who were targeted 8 times, 5 of 8 offensive linemen, 7 of 8 defensive linemen with 100 more snaps, all 4 linebackers with at least 200 snaps and 12 of 17 defensive backs with any snaps. You had Montana Lamonius Craig, the receiver, had a good spring game, and then he hits the portal right after the game, and you see Shedeur Sanders calling him, saying it was crooked or whatever, and like, didn't you transfer from a school? Like, everybody is using everybody to get to the next step, and I thought it was, as one of the guys that they're actually going to count on this year, Montana Lamonius Craig, to get up and leave. Like, Deion Sanders has rubbed a lot of people the wrong way on the team. And I remember Urban Meyer saying, when you take over a job, the players on the team aren't the old coach's players. Those are your players now. Those are your guys. Don't ever say those are, Jim Tressel's guys or Luke Fickell's guys. When Deion got there, he, we've seen it all. Like, they recorded all of this and put it all on video, but he's essentially saying, like, you aren't my people. Like, you're talking to the team, like, you aren't my guys. And a lot of you just hit the portal now, just go now. And to watch it happen and to think that you're going to be able to bring in like 60 guys from, however many scholarship players. I mean, he's had decommitments as well, like the scholarship players and transfer portal. And I don't know, can you do the Bill Snyder? Let's just build from the junior college ranks. I don't know what Colorado's admissions are like in terms of things like that, but it's fascinating to me. It's going to be fascinating to watch. And I'm like you, I'm not giving up on Deion Sanders, but this is just very different. But he's always been different in how he's approached coaching. It's funny, ironic to me that he is this cornerback, this flashy guy. That's how we've always known him. But yet you get to college and he's this hard-nosed, old-school coach. And I don't know that works anymore. And even Nick Saban has had to adjust how he does things. So I think Deion Sanders is going to have to adjust because you can't just run dudes off and run dudes into the ground. And like I tweeted yesterday, Travis Hunter's not going to be the only two-way player on this team because they're going to have to play guys.
It is going to be old school Iron Man football. A lot of 60-minute players if you've only got 50 guys or so on the roster. Yeah, I mean, you started that by talking about a Bill Connolly tweet, and I think one of the reasons that Bill Connolly is focusing on that is because if people don't know, he works for ESPN now, but he's the guy who did the SP Plus analytics system, which a big part of that is evaluating, hey, returning production. Like if you have returning production back, that makes you a better team. So if Colorado has functionally zero returning production back, Colorado is going to be, in his system, one of the most unpredictable teams ever because they're going to be down by like UMass because they have no one back. But they might be really good, but they might not be really good. Like the error bars on this season for Colorado and on the next 3 seasons for Colorado are maybe as big as any I can think of, where this might be a total disaster Charlie Weiss, Kansas situation where, you do what you think is, going to be best and just doesn't work at all. Or Jake Spavital at Texas State, where he just like stopped recruiting high school players. Is like, we're just going to do it all through the portal. And it's, anyway, so he's ex-Texas State high school head coach Jake Spavital now. There is that outcome here where he chases too many guys off and his kid's the quarterback. And I mean, we've all played with the baseball coach whose kid is the starting pitcher and hitting leadoff and, also the starting shortstop and whatever it is. And you can't really do that at a college level. Like Dan Hawkins tried that at Colorado with Cody Hawkins, a decade or so back. It didn't go great. And so you have that outcome, but also it's Deion. So if they see a little bit of success, and they were on ESPN, their spring game was the only one televised on ESPN this year. So if you see a little bit of success and if Travis Hunter has a big season and he's in the Thorpe Award conversation or the Heisman conversation because he's returning kicks and playing wide receiver and also playing corner or whatever, then you start getting attention there and then you start getting players there and maybe you get the NIL thing fired up. But you're going to have people who are either in or out on him. And if people are in, this could go really well. If people are out, this could go so badly. And it's just so interesting to figure out which one is it going to be.
Yeah, did you watch any of the spring game at all? Did you see any highlights?
I saw some highlights. I saw the receiver who left, who caught 3 passes for like 160 yards and 2 touchdowns, and then hit the portal. That was like, well, good news, bad news. Good news, a lot of people saw your spring game. Bad news, a lot of other coaches saw your spring game where this guy scored 2 long touchdowns, and now they want him, and now he's gone.
Yeah, I mean that's perfect. Great job for him to put himself on display. Did you see the kickoff where Deion Sanders had 98-year-old Colorado superfan Peggy Copham kick off the ball for the spring game? Great scene. Everybody got excited. It turns out she just hit the portal too, so that's unfortunate. One last thing with we have the error bars you're talking about. Have you seen their first 6 games for Colorado? They open at TCU, then they have Nebraska at home, then they have Colorado State at home. Don't lose either of those 2 games at home. Then they're at Oregon. Then USC comes to town. Then they're at Arizona State. This could be an 0-6 team. I assume Colorado State is bad, but that's a rivalry game. And don't start out 0-2 at home against Nebraska and Colorado State if you are the Colorado head coach.
Yeah, that is a game, the Nebraska game in particular, that means a lot to both of those schools because that is a rivalry. Not necessarily players right now might not honestly care that much. But man, the fans, it's, it would be like, I think of a rivalry that used to mean a lot more. I mean, Florida State. I mean, that's still kind of like if you've got Florida kids, but it's a rivalry that used to mean so much. That used to be the Black Friday, like noon kickoff game. And it was national championship implications or Orange Bowl implications virtually every year. And now it's a non-conference game. So it's a series that, the old fans, it's like West Virginia Pitt. Like the players now, that's just a weird one-off non-conference game. But that was, the backyard brawl was the backyard brawl for a long time. So that's one that, oh boy, Matt Rule. If Matt Rule wants to build up some goodwill at Nebraska, he could do a lot of that by going in and just blowing the doors off of Colorado. So if Colorado is real shorthanded, that's one where I don't know that Nebraska is going to pump the brakes if they have the opportunity. So yeah, that feels like how, not only how many people are bought in, but how bought in are people? Because if you're just kind of like halfway in right now and then it really starts blowing up badly, that becomes something you might not be able to pull out of. All right, so your silence tells me that it's time to do the next question. I
mean, do we want to spend the whole show on Colorado? We obviously could.
We obviously could, yeah. But all right, let's go to the next one from B. DeGroff. My only question right now is the transfer portal and who from OSU is jumping in. I know you and the staff won't put names on paper. I don't blame you. I guess I'm just surprised there haven't been tickets punched at this time.
I'm shocked that we still haven't, as of the recording of this, which is 10:23 a.m. Tuesday morning, that it's just been Jake Seibert at this point. And obviously I think there's still 3 over. So, and we know they probably would like to bring people in if there's anybody in the portal to even be brought in. But yeah, I'm very surprised. And there's still 5 days to get in there, but I'm very surprised that nobody has entered yet. And yeah, we always talk about you know the formula. Just, you can look at the roster and see who's in their 3rd or 4th year, hasn't played, been passed by younger guys. You can do the math yourself. So yeah, I'm very shocked that we haven't seen anybody yet. And obviously we will, unless the guys who are planning on leaving don't plan on playing next year. And even then, Tom, as I was saying, I think yesterday on the Mike Rogers show, guys can leave Ohio State pretty much at any time. And Ohio State's going to sign whatever waiver is necessary for them to play next year, especially the guys that you'd talk about leaving now. Like, they're not going to punish a 4th-year offensive lineman who has never played by saying, well, how dare you leave us? It's like, these are guys you needed to leave, so you're not going to keep them from playing wherever they end up. So even if guys don't leave during this window, I think they're still going to be able to play wherever they end up.
Yeah, and I don't think in that situation, Ohio State's version of Shedeur Sanders is going to be logging on to tell them that it's terrible. I don't know that Ohio State has a version of Shedeur Sanders, but yeah,
not yet. Maybe in a few years.
Yeah, give it time. Give it time for them to find someone in the portal. Yeah,
I was talking about the coach's son.
Yeah. We'll get to that later. It is definitely a situation where I expected, 4, 5, 6 guys to enter the portal after the spring, and you wonder about the delay, and is there a reason that there's a delay? I do agree with you that if guys wait, they're going to sign the waiver because they have always signed the waiver. They have really not fought anyone on the portal who is leaving Ohio State at any point. So I don't think this is a hard and fast deadline where it's, this is going to be a big problem if you aren't out, if they don't have 3 more guys go out or 4 more guys go out before that deadline. But yeah, I am with you. I am very surprised at that. There are potential medical redshirt candidates on this, or medical retirement candidates, guys who've been injured over the years. You might have 1 or 2 of those. That's a possibility, but I'm with you. I am very surprised we have not seen more guys in the portal because I keep sort of expecting that to happen. It feels like it has not been quite as busy a portal season overall as I expected. I was expecting multiple offensive linemen who are Ohio State caliber offensive linemen to be in there, and it's like, there's some possibilities there, but not as many as I thought there might be. I thought this was going to be a busier transfer portal window than it has been.
Yeah, I bet Ohio State thought the same thing.
Mm-hmm. All right, next one from Tubes. Question, over or under 11.5 wins for the Buckeyes this year? If under, who is the loss and how many? And just for people wondering, when you do an over-under on this is regular season. This does not include Big Ten championship game, bowl game, college football playoff, any of that kind of stuff. So, Spring game, yes. The question is, that's where the 0.5 comes from. I'm going to say they're going to push the 11.5 because of the 0.5 wins for the spring game, yes. So the question here is essentially, will they go undefeated? And for the 17th year in a row, I will tell you, no, you never predict a team to go undefeated in college football because weird stuff happens, and you have, you add up the probabilities of winning these games, and, yes, even if you're favored in every single game, even if you're favored by 10 points in every single game, that means there's a bunch of games where it's like you're 75% chance likely to win, 80% chance likely to win, and you get a bunch of those. You got Notre Dame, you got Penn State, you got Wisconsin, you got Michigan. I mean, and the Michigan game's probably closer to not a coin flip, but closer to a coin flip than some of the other ones. So, you add all those up, and on average, you're going to lose a game every year. So I will just take my standard position. No, they won't go undefeated. No, I don't think there is a specific game that I would point to as they're going to lose this specific game. But I think, is 10-2 more likely this year than 12-0? What do you think?
Oh boy, that's a good one because they do travel to Indiana 3 times this season in regular season, and those are shaky. The Purdue game. Everybody remembers 2018. 10-2. The 2 losses, obviously, you chalk up Michigan as a loss. That's do you see a 10-2 with a win over Michigan?
I think that would be very difficult to see because, Notre Dame should be okay, but I don't think Notre Dame talent-wise can hang with Ohio State. I think they're going to have the same issues in terms of skill talent that they had last year. So, I don't think you lose that one. Penn State. Wisconsin at night, maybe.
Assuming.
Yeah, it's on the road. That's a real possibility. But, again, it's Luke Fickell, it's first-year head coach, so you first year in the system. Yeah, they've brought in some transfer talent, but you're running a whole new system, so you don't, that's a maybe. Penn State's a real possibility. Penn State should be better this year. I've been kind of bullish on Penn State for a few months now. I saw Phil Steele kind of did his projected top 10 in the AP poll preseason and had Ohio State 3, Michigan 4, Penn State 5. So, you're playing games where, like Ryan Day says, the talent is equated. I think, it's possible they go 10-2, but also beat Michigan. But I think, but if they're going to go 10-2, they almost certainly, one of those losses is going to be to Michigan.
And to answer your question, I guess I'd go more likely 10-2 than 12-0, just because 12-0 so rarely happens, and 10-2 is also pretty rare for Ohio State. But I've gone the 12-0 route before, and I don't think I've hit it yet. So let's try another one.
Yeah, and I would say 12-0 is more likely than 9-3, but I think 10-2 is probably more likely than 12-0. In order, if I was going to rank them, I'd say 11 wins, 10 wins, 12 wins, 9 wins, and then less than 9 wins.
4 wins.
This isn't Notre Dame. They don't have 4-win seasons. When was the last time Ohio State had a 4-win season? It might be like
4-6-1.
Oh yeah, 1988. Yeah. So okay, they've had one since the 20s, 30s. I mean, it has been a hot minute since they had who's the guy, the one guy who coached 1 year, like Paul Bixler or something like that. I think he might have had one bad year. That's how you want to get fired in 1 year. That's how you do it in Columbus. All right. Next one from Tubes. Man, this is a great one. And this is, I'm going to let you go first so you can, we'll see if you're right about this or not. For my pleasure, if you and Tom took the NFL Wonderlic test, who would score higher?
Well, in the 12 minutes before I jumped on this video, I took a sample Wonderlic test and I got a 45 and I got all 50 questions done in 12 minutes. I dispute one of the ones that I got wrong. The other two, I got two or three wrong that were just been like, I needed a calculator in terms of like divide this, into these decimals. And it's like, come on. Like I lost the ability to do long division probably at the point where I graduated high school or maybe even before then. But 45, I go ahead. See now, I will also say that was the first time I've ever done it. The second time, understanding the phrasing of some of these questions, because I had to like reread some of these things a couple of times, and also just the phrasing of the questions. I think I could do. I think I could get a 47 out of that thing, just because the devising ones, I was just best guessing because some of the answers were pretty similar. Where a lot of these answers you can best guess just because the answers are so far apart. Sometimes they get tricksy false in there, and then they give you some similar answers. So it's just a guessing game. So if I guess it right on a couple of those, I can get a 49. That's
and it's out of 50.
Yep.
Well, sounds like I've got room to beat you. So there you go. There's your answer. I don't know. I have not taken a sample Wonderlic test.
Do it now.
The next 12 minutes we'll just sit here silently for the listeners. Yeah, that sounds good. That sounds like great. Even better podcasting than normal, which is isn't that a high bar?
Have the camera on you the entire time as you're reading this, like my furrowed brow, just
Why is he sticking his tongue out? That's my thinking face. Shut up.
It's like counting months of the year.
Well, let's see if I can say this in a way that is as emotionally neutral as I possibly could. That is a higher score than I would have expected for you. So good for you. I have traditionally been someone who does well on standardized tests, but that's an impressive score. So good job.
Although, I have I ever said this before? Like when I took the ACTs, and I had been like a couple of years away from doing any math because I did it early and then I was done with it, and I got like a 6 on the math portion.
We didn't. I grew up on the East Coast, so we did not take the ACT. We took the SAT. My understanding is a 6 is not very good because isn't like a good.
There's like 36 is the top score for each section.
So
and I still got into Ohio State.
It was a different time back then. Next one from Evang23. Is this the year for TreVeyon? It feels like it could be. It just sort of depends on how are we defining the year? Because I don't think he's going to have 2,000 yards the way that J.K. Dobbins did in his junior season. But that's mostly because there's so many other guys at that running back position that I don't think he's going to get anywhere close to the number of carries that J.K. Dobbins did. If we're talking about yards per carry, yes, this could be the year for TreVeyon. Where, what did he average last year? 5 point something like that.
It was, yeah.
Yeah. 5. Could he, I think Dobbins finished somewhere around high 6s or so, maybe low 7s in yards per carry in 2019. Could TreVeyon Henderson end up in that area in terms of yards per carry? Absolutely. I think that's a real possibility. But if you're just going to look at the absolute top line numbers, rushes, yards, touchdowns, you're not going to get there. But this feels like a season where I am sort of expecting him to have a big step forward kind of season and then be off to the NFL after this year. That would sort of be my expectation. And then, yards per carry kind of numbers and touchdowns per carry kind of numbers. I think those sort of rate stats for him, I think are going to be potentially in that J.K. Dobbins type of range.
I'm just looking at Jahmyr Gibbs' stats from this past season. He's being a fringe first rounder, early second rounder. 150 carries, 926 yards, 6.1 yards per carry. I don't know that TreVeyon will get to that 150 yards. I could see him being a 7-yard carry guy this year, honestly. You look back at 2019 with J.K. Dobbins, the backup running back that year was Master Teague. And so you understand why J.K. Dobbins got 300 carries. And also, he probably would have been around 7.3, 7.5 yards per carry, other than the fact he was such a workhorse that came down to 6.6, 6.7 yards per carry. So I think TreVeyon Henderson, splitting carries, being fresh, being dynamic as he has been, hitting some home runs, I wouldn't be shocked if he's a 7-yard a carry guy, and also around like 850 yards total for the season, something like that. And I don't know if they're going to have a 1,000-yard rusher. They've got so many more guys to give the ball to, and it's very different than J.K. Dobbins in 2019 when the other guy was Justin Fields in the first 3 quarters, and then it was just Master Teague in the fourth quarter when the game was no longer in doubt.
Yeah, I could see nobody reaching 1,000 yards, but 3 guys having 80 to 100 carries and also averaging more than 6 yards a carry, which at that point, you have an incredibly successful running game, and you're not probably getting the Doak Walker Award or something like that because the top line numbers aren't there, but you have a very successful running game. And I think people are probably right now saying, but what about the offensive line? I think the concern with the offensive line is much more in pass pro than it is in running, which means you should probably be able to run it fairly effectively. And also you might be running it a little bit more than you would have otherwise in the past if pass pro really is an issue. And, we'll circle back to the transfer portal conversation where it hasn't happened yet, but it's possible that there's an addition to the Ohio State offensive line through the portal, which maybe changes that dynamic a little bit. So a lot of moving parts here, but I think overall the short answer to your question is, yeah, this feels like this could be a real good year for TreVeyon Henderson, and then he's off to the NFL. All right, next one from RC3 Miller, favorite sauce for wings for each Huddle staff writer. Tony, what does Kevin get on his wings? We have had wings with Kevin a number of times.
He just says donkey a lot.
Okay, yeah, so that's that tells you where we're going sometimes, and also, so he's on the hot end of the spectrum in terms of wing sauce, and only in terms of wing sauce. What about you?
I'm more just regular barbecue sauce, whatever, it could be Casey Masterpiece, whatever. Just give me some barbecue. It doesn't need to be honey barbecue, just some barbecue sauce to, I don't need it to be drenched. I actually like to taste the chicken. Unlike people who eat wings I need it drenched. I need some blue cheese. I need some ranch, anything to cover the taste of this chicken. That's what you people do.
I'm like a medium garlic or a spicy garlic type. If they have a spicy garlic, I will generally go with something like that. If it's a place that doesn't have a spicy garlic, I'll, mix a medium in a garlic or a hot in a garlic or something like that. And that's my choice. They've done the Parmesan garlic wings in the past at places. A good dry rub, if you can find a place with a good dry rub, I'm not opposed to those either. But, I feel like a lot of times in a lot of places, unless it's a place where they do wings well, that can get real, the wings a little dried out and then the dry rub's dry. And it's just like, oh boy, this is not the mouthfeel I was looking for. So yeah, I tend to be more of a spicy garlic type.
Have you ever seen me order wings?
I have seen you order boneless wings, aka chicken fingers, but I don't think I've actually ever seen you order like traditional wings.
Because I think the only time I ever remember ordering wings, and maybe this is why I don't eat wings, it would have been in high school at like a Ponderosa.
The very best of everything. Did they have their Michelin star yet, or was that before that happened?
No, they got it and then it got taken away because they had stolen it. But so maybe that's why. And maybe I should try to experience wings. We keep hearing about there's plenty of places around town. I won't mention any in case somebody is not a sponsor, becomes a sponsor. And if you are a chicken place or wing place and you want to be a sponsor, go ahead and let us know. But maybe I need to order some wings at some point and just see how the other half lives.
Yeah, I remember we obviously lived on the East Coast and would come out to Ohio to visit family from time to time. And the first time I went into a Ponderosa, I was probably 8 or 9 and thought it was the most incredible place on earth because they had the Sunday bar. Like you could go pick whatever you want. Like I had seen buffets before, so okay, that wasn't crazy. But they have a Sunday bar, Tony, and you can make whatever you want. And if you want to go back and get a second ice cream sundae and your parents are in the bathroom or something and not looking, you can go back and get a second ice cream sundae. And Tony, for a short period of my life, Ponderosa was the absolute favorite place in my entire life. We went last year when we were at Penn State to Haas's Steak and Seafood, which is kind of, maybe like a slightly more upscale Ponderosa, but very much the same type of vibe. It was not quite as magical as it was when in the mid '80s or so, but it was a fun little blast from the past. That oh yes, I remember when this was the single greatest thing on the face of the earth.
Did you ever have a Duff's growing up? A Duff's buffet?
No, never heard of it.
Smorgasbord?
Duff's Smorgasbord I have heard of, but no, never been there.
Yes, because back when we were, I think the one in Toledo or wherever we went, and we only went a couple times because obviously this is very expensive and very fancy. Because the food spins around. That's where the buffet spins around, and you either let it come to you or you go and get it.
Was it like an automat? Is that what you mean by you say spins around?
It was like a Lazy Susan.
Oh, okay.
It's like, wait, just stand right here. The fried chicken is coming.
Okay, they had automats in New York where it was like. Sometimes it was like a conveyor belt, or sometimes it was like you could like pick things out of like a wall of doors with different kinds of food in it. It
sounds amazing.
It was the early '80s in New York. It was a time to be alive.
Anyway, I think that'll do it. I think we've covered everything. That's a good topic to end on, or maybe not even discuss. But it was a listener question, so we had to address it. Anything else, Tom, before we go?
No, but just we appreciate the questions, and
yes.
I hope you guys enjoy these shows because we're doing a bunch of them. And if you don't enjoy these shows, well, it's your fault because you sent us the question. So, do better next time, or you're welcome.
very, very well said, Tom. Thank you for saying it so well. I want to thank you all for joining us. As always, check us out at BuckeyeHuddle.com. Become a member. Say hello to us there on the message board. We're there right now. Mark Giverler has his chat going on it's his weekly Tuesday chat. So stop by, say hello to Mark and anybody else who's there. Also, Kevin is always around. I was trying to sell the subscription, and then I said Kevin is always around. Strike those words. And also, you can find us at youtube.com/BuckeyeHuddle. Thank you all for tuning in, and we'll talk to you guys later.